What up, everybody? This your boy Theo Pinson here again with another episode of Run Your Race with my boy, AJ Richardson.
Good morning, beautiful people.
It's still morning. It's still morning. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But people, listen. We got a very important pod today. We got a very special pod today. We have our very first woman on the pod. We needed it. We've been waiting to have it.
Y'all absolutely needed it.
And there's no better person in the world that we could have.
To start with.
For sure to start with. Other than our mamas, we got that.
Exactly.
Because where's Rhonda?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And she just sent me, she just sent me a selfie too. Look. Shout out to Mom.
So she's really the first on the pod because
yes,
yeah, sure.
Yeah. Moms just sent me the selfie.
Shout out my dude's got the hair done.
Mom just sent me the selfie.
My mom's on a cruise right
amazing.
now.
She just got her hair done.
Yeah, my mom's on a cruise. They got our moms are living their best lives.
Facts.
Okay, and I love that. But people, we got a very special guest here today. I'm gonna let her tell her own story. I'm gonna let y'all understand her story because I'm excited. I'm here to learn. People, we got Courtney Mays here today.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, we're good. Man, I just want to say thank you for being our very first woman on the show, on the pod. We can't thank you enough. We've been trying. It just haven't worked out in our schedule to get people on, but we're honored to have you here. And what we do here is we talk about our race. Everyone's race to get to where they want to get to is different.
Yeah.
And it's very unique. So we want to give everybody the belief in the will to get to where they want to. And it's not always smooth. It's never going to be smooth. So we want to give everybody a free game on how to get to where you are today. And like I said, first, where you from? And how did you get started with doing fashion?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm from Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay. Shout out Ohio.
I'm a Midwest girl through and through.
Mm-hmm. You like the snow?
I do like the snow.
Really?
You know, I like the snow like Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and then I can come back to LA.
Seasonal.
Yeah. Because I grew up where I had to like warm my car up ahead of time and do all that. I'm glad I don't have to experience that anymore. Yeah. But I do like the snow. I like a good Christmas movie. Like, I like the snow. I went to the University of Michigan. My degree is in art history. So I didn't go to school for fashion or design or anything like that. I moved to New York and I went with the intention of getting my master's in art history. I wanted to be a curator. AJ knows I'm really into art. I think in my Golden Girls years, I'll probably lean back into that. And I started working for a designer. She was one of the first Black designers to show at New York Fashion Week. Her name is Tracy Reese. I worked in her store. And because at the time it was a small business, I was given the opportunity to work in the PR office and go to the wholesale appointments and dress the mannequins and do all of that. And so it was kind of my first understanding of the business of fashion. I think there's a lot of, especially now, and at the time there was no social media, but there's a lot of like hype around like being a stylist or being a designer or owning a brand, and you don't really know the logistics of it. And I think that opportunity gave me like a good window, a good lesson into like how it works to own a brand. And then one of the girls that worked there at the store with me, she was an intern for Rachel Johnson, who was my first boss. She was also LeBron James stylist at the time.
Okay.
And she was, you know, the girl who worked with me, her name was Simone. She was like telling me all these crazy stories, kind of like the devil wears Prada, like this woman is crazy, all the things. And for whatever reason, I was like, I want to do that. Which was crazy, but because I definitely have some crazy stories. But I literally started interning the next day, and I was like pulling clothes and jewelry for Sierra for like a late night talk show. And I was actually working with Kellyanne. And I was like her intern, like sitting in the car, doing things. And from there, I interned for 2 years. I was an assistant for 6 years. And then I moved to Los Angeles and started my own business, which that story is a bit convoluted, but here I am.
I don't think I knew none of that, really.
Really?
No, I mean, obviously the Rachel piece, because I think that's where we first met.
Yeah.
Yeah, in New Orleans when the wedding.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. Talk about your experience working the first job at the store and stuff like that. How did that like get you to like the mindset? Because I feel like for me, like my dad owns a barbershop. So like when I was growing up, my job pretty much was doing everything at the barbershop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like you had the opportunity to kind of do the same thing.
Yeah.
So talk about that. Like what did that like give you the mindset to like, oh, this, you know what I mean?
Can I ask you this before you answer that one?
Yeah.
What was it like when you were little and you were growing up? Was this something you
absolutely not
thought about?
So I come from a family of doctors. My dad is a dentist. His brother is a family practitioner. His other brother is a urologist. My mom was a flight attendant for 40 years. So I thought I was going to be a pediatrician. I love kids.
Okay.
I went to Michigan to be pre-med. So to my parents' surprise, that shit twisted really fast.
For sure.
And I mean, I still love kids and, you know, medicine is cool, but I have my own thoughts about that. But like, I also was always a creative. I love to draw. But I didn't know that there was like a career around being creative at all. I think now, kids have the opportunity to see that, you know, but then, you know, I didn't know I was going to be a doctor, lawyer, Indian chief kind of thing. But I think maybe in the back of my mind that I knew like I didn't really want to be a doctor. Like that's what, you know, your parents kind of groom you to do certain things. But like once I went to college and I was able to study art in a way that felt a little bit more structured, I was like, oh, okay, this might turn into something that I can actually like generate income from. And I'm actually interested. I'm actually doing the work in the class. I'm not just, you know, showing up and throwing something on a paper.
That's important.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, what I think became really clear to me is I have to do something that I'm passionate about. I can't just do something that, you know, I'm just going to get up and go to work and go home and just kind of run the rat race.
1000%.
I need to do something that I love and that I care about and that I'm going to be excited to get up in the morning and do.
Yeah. Talk about how important that is though. Because I think people need to understand happiness going to your workplace I would say is even
that's the battle.
That's the battle.
That's the battle right there.
That's the battle.
And talk about how important that is of you finding that, and even finding it where you found it is rare. Because even you talked about on your story, like how you came to do what you're doing. Like you didn't have that at first. You were still trying to figure it out. You see what I'm saying? Finding that so early is a blessing.
I think that's the part. I think I even talked to my brother who's only 5 years younger than me. And I think he's still trying to figure out like, what do I love? Like, where do I find joy that I can actually generate income from? It wasn't easy though. Like I made $400 or $500 a week living in New York. So like I had my best friend, and I love her, but I remember she told me so many times, like, get a real job. Like, this is cool and all, but like, you're struggling. Like, you need to get a real job and sustain. And I heard her, but I felt like I knew that there was something bigger at the end. And I knew that like I could kind of fight through until I got to that point because I loved what I was doing and it was interesting to me and it was challenging. And there were not always great days. I mean, I definitely had those moments where I was being beat down. But I think because I found what I loved, which was being creative. I loved working in fashion. I loved menswear. I think it was really helping me to identify who I was, but also, you know, I was able to get up in the morning and be proud of what I was doing. And I think that was really important for me.
Sure.
And even if you don't have that opportunity, I mean, I had parents that were supporting me in a way, sort of. I mean, And like I had a system around me that helped me when I was financially down.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you don't have that and you still have to like go and get whatever a regular job is in order to make it, I think find something within that job that makes you light up a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk about you moving to New York, getting paid what you was getting paid, the sacrifices.
Oh,
the
major
sacrifices.
I mean, New York City is
yes
one of the most expensive cities in the world, right?
Jesus.
I started out with a car because I didn't know. Like, car got towed probably 6, 7, 8, 9 times. I mean,
sure.
my parents.
You just got to find a parking spot out there.
I mean, because you got to do the what is it? The opposite side street parking where you. Yep. Okay, so that was a nightmare. I lived with a roommate who I went to college with. We moved at the same time. The first apartment we ever had was a 1-bedroom apartment in Queens. And we slept in the same bed and we just made it work. And it was just like, we're here. We want to make it in New York.
Yeah.
Learning the subway system is a thing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, New York is cool and it's all beautiful on TV, but it's also really gross. There's rats and shit everywhere.
Yeah.
Can I curse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a huge sacrifice. I think also for what I do, which I guess I haven't really said what I do. I'm a menswear stylist. I work prominently with athletes.
Mm-hmm. Men and women.
And I say menswear stylist because a lot of my female athletes are also gender fluid in the way that they dress. A lot of them wear men's clothes, not necessarily because they want to present as masculine, but also because some of them are like, that's the size that's available to them.
Yeah.
But for what I do, it's a lot of schlepping. It's bags and boxes and shipping. And I have constantly, a ton of stuff with me. So to do that in New York, when there was no Uber, there was no Instagram, there was none of that. It was hard work. And the office that I worked in was technically in New Jersey. So I would take the train to the bus to another train to a bus across the bridge to a bus to the house. It was crazy. It was like your parents telling you like, I walked 5 miles in the snow backwards. But for real, like I was actually like in the snow, bus to train to bus to like, and I think that's why now when I'm hunting for assistants or people who, are interns, I'm like, no, y'all actually don't know.
Y'all don't know the
like,
real.
Y'all think y'all can take a picture on Instagram with y'all's cute outfit and like that makes you a stylist. Like that's not what it is at all.
More into it.
Let me ask you this. Do you think like we're all in the industry, right? And being from North Carolina, being from Cleveland, North Carolina, I know for me growing up, I was like, oh, I always want to go to LA. I always want to go to New York. Do you think you going to New York that helped you where you are now? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think if you have the opportunity to live in New York, even if it's for a short amount of time, a month, you should do it. I think it changes the way you hustle.
I agree.
100%.
I think it changes the way you see the world. I mean, New York, to me, either you are super rich or you are living check to check, penny to penny. And I think you have to be able to see that and be able to hustle through that. I think you have to also be able to see the people that are living in this like life of luxury so that it can be aspirational to you.
But you see it every day.
Yeah.
You see it every day.
You do. I think you also have to know what it's like to take 10 Target bags on the train, 10 stops to get to like walk up 6 flight of stairs to go just to get to your apartment. Like, I think you have to know what that's like. And it sounds small, but to do it every day and to experience that grind. And also like New Yorkers have a different type of hustle.
Yeah,
like it's like by any means necessary, you get it done, period. And I think especially if you work in New York, that's the expectation. And so there's no slow motion. You can't be late. There's none of that. Like you learn that you get the work done by any means necessary. You leave a place better than you left, than you arrived at it. There's so many little things that I think New York taught me that if I lived in LA first, I don't think I would be where I am today.
That's interesting.
That's huge. I played my first 3 years in New York. First time I got there, I was like, I hate it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it's so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have to block out a certain amount of time.
Yep.
But now when someone says, oh, it's only 30 minutes away, I'm like, that's it?
That's it?
Right, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's all you talking, oh, it's 45 minutes away?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah.
Come on, bro. Like, and it's a great point because there's so many people in New York that are grinder.
Yeah.
Like they grind, bro.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to make it. Everyone wants to get to the top. And as much as you don't think about it, New York has all them tall buildings.
Yep.
I want to be there.
Yeah.
I want, like, who you think at the top? The CEOs, the owners and stuff like that. You see that every single day. You're like, I gotta get there. And that's probably that's the light at the end of the tunnel. Now you look back, you like, damn, I really did that.
Yeah.
I really fought through all of that. And now I'm here.
Yeah. I mean, I think I still have so much to do, but I think
1,000.
it gave me a sense of direction, and it also made me want to work that much harder.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Except now when I go back for work, I'm like, please, I got 2 days max, get me out of here. Please.
That makes so much sense.
Your first internship.
Yeah.
That's your break.
Yeah.
That's your chance. Talk about how you're approaching it, how you that's your go. Like how do you approach that?
So to go back to AJ's question before, like when I was working at Tracy Reese's store, I was really just working in the retail store. It's not like I was, given this, like, here, now you become part of the PR team. But I was like, no, there's something bigger than just selling clothes here. Like, I want to know, like, why we dress the mannequins like this. I want to know what it's like to work with a VIP client. I remember Rachel Ray. I don't know if you guys know who she is. She's a chef. Used to come in, and because my mom watches Food Network all the time, I'm like, I'm going to work with her and help her get dressed. And so I knew, like, I need to figure out, like, there's more to just selling the clothes and making the retail space look cool. So when there's an opportunity to go to wholesale market, sign me up. Yeah. I'm raising my hand every time. Like if there's an opportunity to go to the PR office, sign me up. Like I think that desire to do more, I think was sort of what made me stand out. And then again, like when my coworker said, like, I'm an intern for this company and it's crazy, and all her stories sounded crazy, but for whatever reason, I was like, like, well, I've been dressing the mannequins and I've been working with like the VIP clients in the store. Like something sort of like works here.
Yeah, something's working. Yeah, for sure.
So,
figuring it out. And
it was crazy. Like interning, again, like I think about assistants now. Like I was at this woman's house. She would be getting ready for a 6 a.m. flight to come out here. And I was there making sure the bags were packed, ready to go for the job. So that's what, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. You were there all day and all night until you got the work done.
So speaking of that, let's get a little bit more into like, what is it like being a celebrity stylist? Because I think a lot of people, we just see the Chris Pauls, the Sue Birds, all your clients, Kevin Love, DeAndre Jordan. We just see them on the tunnel walk.
Yeah.
But we don't see what you do.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Which is like my team's biggest thing, because people want to see the behind the scenes. And I'll be like, I got to do the actual work.
Exactly. Like, I FaceTimed you yesterday. I was just like, Court, you trying to get on the pod?
Yeah.
What Court was doing? What'd I say?
I'm working.
She working.
Absolutely not.
Not right now. Not right now. She was in the store. So like, explain to like, what does it look like? Like, what does a day goes? So let's start with Chris. I mean, that's Chris's. So Chris, what does it look like to style Chris Paul for a road game or a home game or whatever?
Okay. So I would say each client is different and their level of expectation or what they need is different. But I try to create a system around all of them that is at least similar for me so I can execute efficiently. So I visit each client for the NBA. I visit each NBA client every 30 days. I come to their home or whatever their space is. We have a fitting. Let me step all the way back. If I'm a new person, if you're a new client and you're like, hey, I want to have a stylist. I think it's important, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to have conversations about whose style you like, what you're into, what things you like that you wear that you have already. If there's somebody that you kind of aspire to be like, style-wise, what are your goals off the court? Like, are you a businessman? Are you wanting to be in the fashion world? Are you wanting to go to Fashion Week and do all of that? Are you more into philanthropy? Like, who are you off of the court? Who are you when you're not Chris Paul or whoever? Yeah, what's your purpose? Because to me, fashion impacts all of that.
100%.
And so mood boards are made because obviously I'm a visual person. So I want to know, like, okay, I heard what you said. This is how I interpret it visually. And then there's, circles and X's and yes, I like that, or I don't like that. Or even if it's like a picture of a whole body, like, oh, I like the polo shirt, but I don't like the sweatpants or whatever it is. Like, I want to know what works for you. Then also I meet with you, we take measurements. Some of these guys, not Chris, but like 6'9", 6'10". So some of these things are being made to measure. So a lot of times, like, I can't imagine what it would be like for DeAndre Jordan at 16 years old to go shopping.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm there to help not create, like, minimize that feeling of like, I'm 16 years old and I go in a store and like nothing works. Yeah. I want to be the person that's like, here, this whole rack is for you. Yeah. And help elevate boost your confidence. So I go take measurements, do all of that. I bring things from jeans to suits. We try things on, what works, what doesn't work, what brands work for you. Maybe there's a tailor there to make adjustments. Maybe nothing works on the rack the first time. We have to come back and do it a second time because it's not like an instant thing. Right. I mean, usually that doesn't happen, but like, it's trial and error. And then once we kind of establish that, then I come every 30 days. I'm super hyper aware of the game schedule. We figure out what day is kind of in between, and I re-up for those 30 days. So you have a rack in your closet or guest room or wherever that literally has a look for every single game. It's labeled. There's, the accessories literally down to the socks of everything you're going to wear. I'm also super aware that like my job is like a bit of a convenience thing. Like, on game day, your job is to focus on the game. So what you wear shouldn't be a hindrance to that. So you can go to this rack, what you're going to put on, it works, you like it, and you can move on and do your job on the court.
That's dope. That is crazy.
That is super dope. I wish I had it.
Me too.
I wish I had it.
Me too.
That was beautiful. Sounds like even the last part, just like, I literally would go in the closet and be like,
it's one less thing you got to think about.
Yeah.
What am I going to wear today?
One less thing
but also it's very curated. So like for Chris, when he was the president of the PA, like I was really thinking about how he represented himself in that moment. So like making sure it felt a little bit more business casual. So you knew like, okay, yeah, he's about to go play, but he's also the president. This is like also a whole business here. So we want to reflect businessman. Or like for Kevin, he's very classic all-American guy. We want to make sure that that resonates with his like consumer base when you see him walking into the court. Also just like what he intrinsically likes. I think, yes, it's like, for me, it's about putting looks together that are cool and that fit well, but like, it's not about creating viral moments or like giving you the latest and greatest sneaker drop or some crazy, $8,000 jacket. Like, that's not who I am as a stylist. There are stylists that are like that, and that's cool. That works for them. Yeah. But I think it's me trying to really identify who you are as a person, what your business is off the court, field, ice, whatever sport it is, and me trying to help use fashion as a platform to elevate that.
Got you.
I think that's super, another dope thing is, like, you know, I send you pictures of my outfit and be like, hey, you like this?
Yes.
You know, but one of the things that I love about Court is she used to, so I'll tell the story. When I was younger, Court used to call me like a brain whore. Cause so when Chris was like back in his early days, he used to wear all the like brands and stuff like that. So we have a thing. So like when she purged,
it would go to AJ.
I'm going to me.
For sure.
So I'm in college, I'm in high school fresh. You know what I mean? I ain't paying for it.
Yeah.
It's Chris hit me the house, whatever.
For sure.
So she was like, AJ, like, I always had a sense of style. Like I always been a fly guy, like always or whatever.
Oh, okay.
I have. Yeah, I'll throw that in there. I have.
Yeah.
But she told me, she was like, AJ, it don't really matter if it's Louis Vuitton or whatever, like H&M,
Zara,
these like Zara, like all those. It's like, if you know how to put these pieces together, that's all that matters. And like Court really like taught me that and like gave me that, and then like now, like that's why I am who I am.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
I love that.
You know, so
I got a question for you though. It wasn't always flowers the whole way.
No.
What was the biggest hurdle or bump in the road to get into this industry? Because I'm gonna tell y'all right now, and this is my camera, we're not the easiest people to work with.
Oh,
I'm gonna tell you that.
Oh no,
I'm gonna tell you that right now.
No.
We're difficult.
Yeah.
There's times where like, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like. What was the biggest thing for you to get past in this profession?
I mean, some of it's happening currently. Like, I think actually for me, athletes are easier to work with than like say musicians or actors, because I do work with some like industry people. Because I feel like you have a structure around your life anyway.
Yeah.
And so that expectation of structure around the creative it works for me as a business. I think there are small hurdles. Like, for example, we talked about Chris earlier. Like, not every client wants to wear what you think they should wear. I don't try to imprint my style on anyone, but I think there's always a conversation, and sometimes it's a little battle. I think that's tough. I think the onset of social media has been tough because I think there's an illusion around what it is to be a stylist. There have been times where I have lost business because like I didn't have enough followers, which is wild to me because I'm still trying to figure out how to use social media. I feel like I just posted like a get ready with me and I was very confused by the whole thing. Cause I'm here to do the work. Like I'm not here to take pictures of it. And I know I need to like lean into that because that's the world where we're getting into. But I think that's been tough. I recently had a client that I got booked for a job and then I found out they no longer wanted to work with me because they wanted to work with a male stylist. Which was like a really like punch in the gut for me because I feel like I've been really championing menswear and never been like the girly girl stylist. I mean, I don't even know how to say that because I feel like, you know, everybody do you, but like, and I think also, as dressing athletes becomes more buzzworthy and now it's kind of a cool thing. People are looking at the tunnel. I think that's awesome. Sometimes I want to be like, yo, I've been doing this for like 15 years. And for a minute, y'all would look at, like, there are even other stylists that have been working in the industry and, you know, do all the red carpets and the, you know, work for actors who would look down on stylists that dress athletes as if it wasn't enough. And now look at y'all, like y'all.
Oh, it's crazy.
Right. So sometimes it's like pushing through that and knowing like, this is cool. Working in sports and doing something creative in sports worked for me because I grew up in a sports household. My dad played in the NFL. I went to Michigan. I played basketball in high school and middle school and field hockey and all the things. Like, I went to a girls' school, so it was like girls in sports was always like, and my dad was very like, you're playing sports.
Yeah.
But I was a creative. So working in sports and being a creative worked for me.
Yeah.
But so many times people were like, meh. Like the fight to get clothes for even somebody like Chris Paul, who is like the guy, is tough. Like people aren't just throwing him designer clothes. Like there are things he doesn't even know. I mean, like emails and emails and emails of me basically begging, like, hey, we would love to work with you. This is a great person to work with. I think there's an illusion around like, you know, I don't know, James Harden wears a Louis Vuitton look head to toe, that they gave him that. No, probably somebody worked really hard to either try to align him with Louis Vuitton, or he paid 30 grand for the look.
Yeah.
So like,
One of the two. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the struggle has been the logistics of it all. And also me kind of learning to deal with the newness of like social media. And also knowing like I'm not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm like, well, because to me, I'm like, I'm just chill. Like, I'm here to help. Like, I'm not trying to be the talent. So I'm like, I kind of work for everybody, but I don't.
Yeah, thanks.
So yeah, I think there's always like a hurdle. I think my days never look the same. So there's always like a little.
Something new every day.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy because we do these pods all the time, and it's more of like you learn something new and the nuances of it. You've had a shift in the fashion world. Yeah. There's a shift with the new media.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like there's a change that you're having to adapt.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good and bad thing.
Yeah.
But it's huge for you to understand, like, okay, I gotta adapt or I'm gonna get left behind.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I think that's one of the things that there's going to be people who watch this pod also, because there are a lot of people who want to be stylists.
Yeah,
there's a lot. And I think they need to understand the little things that the game you could give them. So what are those little things to help them get started in this profession that you could give them to get to where you are? And like I said, it's tough too, because it's really all of who you know.
It is. I mean, it's definitely, I think like any industry, this particular industry is about relationships.
Yeah.
Relationships with your clients, relationships with the vendors, and it's making sure your line of communication is open. I've gotten in trouble with that so many times because I get so overwhelmed by projects. I forget to hit somebody back, or making sure you're on top of your emails and you're saying thank you, and your follow-up is great. I think it's, for me, what helped me when I first started is doing all the things nobody wanted to do. I was going to FedEx, I was getting the coffee, I was doing the receipts and reconciling the statements. I think it was showing up in those ways which helped me stand out. I think it's knowing that this is beyond like, I know how to dress myself. Because everyone wants to look different, and everyone's bodies are different, and everyone's expectations of how they show up in the world is different. And so it's not like, oh, well, I dress cool, I can dress somebody else cool. Doesn't quite work that way. And I think once you understand that, I think that will help you kind of soar in a way. I think it's reaching out to people for mentorship. I think even now I say like, Rachel, I believe, was like the godmother of like why we're even having this conversation. She was the first person to really say like, hey, athletes are tastemakers, they're influencers. There's a market here for aligning them with fashion, men and women. And I think she is the reason why we're even looking at the tunnels and what people are wearing. But I think she taught me to be a really great assistant. I don't know if she taught me to be a really great business owner.
Mm.
And I think I've even to this day, like still looking for a mentor that's like, can kind of guide me, and I can have those conversations like, hey, I need to invoice for this. What does that look like? Or I have this communication with this person. It's kind of got weird. How do I handle this? And I feel like being able to have somebody in the business world kind of share with you feedback in a candid way, like you're talking to your homies, and it doesn't feel like, awkward. Yeah. I want to be able to ask those questions that might seem stupid. I think leaning into that type of mentorship is important no matter what industry you're in, but especially in the creative world, because I think there's so much competition that I think we forget to talk to each other.
Yeah.
I went to see another stylist yesterday, Dexter Robinson, who he works for a lot of NBA players, but I think he's probably known more for NFL, dressing NFL players. And it was such a great feeling to just chat with somebody who does what I do and just like have a candid conversation like, yo, man, we did this and this was crazy, or we did this and we can celebrate this. And I think we forget to engage with each other in that way because we're often in competition.
Yeah.
I think that's extremely important. And even if you're like, I really want to be a stylist, I'm not saying jump in my DMs because sometimes I forget to even look in Instagram. Yes. But I'm saying like, shoot your shot, like email, say I want to ask questions. I'm happy to, always lend advice where I can. I think mentorship, doing things people don't want to do, knowing social media is some bullshit.
Social media is like changing the game. It's crazy.
I mean, I think it's super valuable and it's extremely important. And I'm so glad like people are watching the tunnel, and like and it's also turning into business opportunity for athletes. Like I would like to think, and I don't know if Chris would ever admit to this, but like the way he shows up as Chris Paul off the court has impacted the businesses that he has. I would like to think that.
1000%.
Knowing that this is like, it's hard. Like, yes, in theory, I'm like playing with clothes, but I'm also like, I got to figure out my accountant. Like I own my own business. So I'm HR, I'm accountant, I'm assistant, I'm intern, I'm finance, I'm all of the things. And I think you have to realize that it's not like we're going shopping for the day. And I think that's really important because at the end of the day, like it's a small business and I have to run it as such.
I think that's important too, because I think a lot of people, this generation, a lot of people want to be stylists, but they don't understand. Like if you were a stylist, it's not like
we go on a rodeo for the day.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's not that is not what's happening. For sure. You know what I mean? So like I think it's important to just tell the people like, you have to wake up early. You have to be here.
Yeah.
You might have to, your personal time might gotta get scrapped. You know what I mean?
Oh, fully. Like I mean, I live in Los Angeles. My family is mostly in Cleveland. Like, there are times when I'm like, oh, it's 8:00 here. Oh, it's 11 o'clock at home. Like, so I forget, that time difference is crazy. I think it's been tough. When I moved to Los Angeles, I didn't know anybody other than my clients and their family.
Yeah.
So like, finding a community out here was really tough. It's different than New York where like your community could be downstairs at the bar that you live on top of kind of thing. And so I think I really dug deep into work and that has been great, but there's also there's a con to that. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times I've had to apologize to friends for forgetting birthdays or not being able to fly back to New York to go to somebody's graduation because I have to be on set. Which sounds cool, but sometimes isn't because you like miss out on those life opportunities.
Yeah.
That's how I think like even yesterday, like the bowling alley.
Those moments
stuff is important.
Yeah,
so
bro.
important.
It's important and I'll say this all the time, like you gotta get away sometimes.
Yeah.
You have to give away to just have
you
know what I'm saying? Like
the
because you can you can beat yourself up and you can get so exhausted in that workspace, even though it's something you love.
Yeah.
It can be something you love. You just got to give yourself grace and time to take a break from it for a second.
Yeah.
And you got to have those moments. My other question was, I just know from the basketball side, the competitive nature, and even the podcast side, like it's very competitive right now. How do you, and you harped on it a little bit, the competitive nature of the fashion industry and the stylist industry. Do y'all not connect? Are people trying to keep their style to themselves or their clients to themselves and stuff like that? Or do y'all kind of like, it's kind of different though, because in basketball, we can call someone else and be like, yo, Chris, you can help me out with this. I need some help with this, blah, blah, blah. Are y'all able to do that?
I don't think we do it enough. I think we're absolutely able to do it.
That's what you're saying you're missing. Yeah.
I think I've sort of challenged myself to make sure that I do that. Because I think before you kind of silo yourself because you're like, well, I don't want to lose any clients or I always want to seem like I know what I'm doing. But in the reality, nobody really knows what they're doing. We're all just trying to figure it out. But I think we're all afraid to say that.
Right.
And so I think even the women that I kind of grew up in this industry with, Keisha, Kalila, Kellyanne, who all work with some really great players, like we used to be together every single day. And then when we kind of separated, we kind of forgot that, at least for me. And maybe I own it. Like, I think we forget to reach out to our peers and say like, hey, I need help, or like, I have a question about this. And I think that part is so valuable. And even if it's not within your industry, like think about, there's so many times like I could ask a client like, hey, how do you handle this? Because they might not know, but they might know somebody that can help you.
For sure.
But you forget, because I think pride makes you say like, oh, I had to look like I have my shit together.
Yeah.
But I think recently I realized like, sometimes like when we go to All-Star, it reminds you of like summer camp. For me, because like I don't go into office every day, so I don't see the same people. So when you go to something that is centered around what you've been working on the whole year, you see everybody that you worked with at some point in the year.
Yeah.
And in those moments, so for me, it's like, okay, you might see the Game 7 people because you worked on an event with them, or you might see the State Farm people because you worked on a commercial with them, or you might see some players you used to work with or whatever. So to have them all in one space reminded me like, I don't have to wait until February to like reach out and say like, hey, I have an idea about this. The other thing I would say that was my biggest lesson is learning to advocate for yourself. I think when you get around celebrity athlete culture, in your mind, you start to believe like somebody's coming to save you a little bit. Like someone's gonna help you with this job, or like big you up here, but like, that's not really how it works. Like everybody's out here trying to figure it out for themselves. I think to remember to advocate for yourself is like number one lesson. And to realize like you have to be your own cheering squad.
Yeah, 100%.
And you have to be the person that's going to say, hey, I have an idea. This is how I want to execute it, and not wait for somebody to say like, hey, Courtney, do you have an idea about this? I think I waited a long time in that space where I was like, well, nobody asked me what I thought. Like, no, I have a voice. I need to say what I think about this and how I can be included in this. And I think that sometimes we forget that. And I would say as women, we forget that. But I think people in general, especially in this industry, I think allow themselves to become so consumed with the world that we're in that we forget to connect with each other and also advocate for ourselves in ways that can help build our own businesses.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
That's big time, because at the end of the day, like, regardless of your profession, is you're a stylist, basketball player, businessman. All three of these are things that we all need to understand. we're all working together.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, we're all working together.
Absolutely.
And if we all work together, why can't we all eat?
Yeah. There's stuff. There's things out here for everybody.
You see what I'm saying?
100%.
Like
100%.
you could be getting some for Sue Bird or something, right? Be like, you hit up another stylist, be like, hey, you have a contact for this? Cool. Yeah, they do that for you.
Yeah.
Oh, they call you. Do you have a contact for this?
Yeah.
I do. I don't mind doing that because you helped me out the one time I needed you. That is the beauty of connections that people don't understand. And another thing is, to people out there, you're looking at Courtney's followers for what? All right, me and AJ was just talking about this yesterday. Click on the followers.
Right.
Look at the followers.
Look who followed.
Look who's
them.
following.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Who is watching my stuff?
Who is watching?
That's the important part.
That is monumental. You know what I'm saying? So people got to understand the little nuances and stuff like that. But that's big time. You got anything else?
Yeah, talk about like being on set, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you pretty much have styled damn near everything. From a tunnel walk, NBA tunnel walk, to Chris being on Forbes, stuff like that. All the State Farm commercials that y'all see. Cliff Paul and all that.
Good old Cliff.
Courtney Mays, you know what I mean?
Come on.
So just talk about like just being on set and the preparation it takes and all that.
Yeah, so
is there a big difference?
Huge.
Okay.
So, and I had to learn that. Like before I moved out here, I was able to like come here to work on music videos and that type of thing from time to time. But I think it wasn't until I moved to Los Angeles, I realized there's different types of styling. So State Farm, for example, which Candace and I talk about this all the time. The first time State Farm was a shit show. Like I'm talking like we did not know what we were doing, but because we didn't ask any questions,
right?
And of course we want to make sure Chris looks good and he feels good and he thinks we know what we're doing. So we had about 47 racks of clothes. We did not know that you have to have doubles because for a lot of the bigger commercials, the main talent has a double that plays him or her. And so when that person raps for the day, like it may not be Chris's hand that you see, it's the double's hand or his wrist or the side of his face, because they need to make sure they're getting all of these specific shots, but they don't want to take the time with the person, right? Or they use them to stand in to like make sure the lighting is okay. And so these are things I had no idea, like no idea about TV production, any of that until I'm in the thick of it. So you're going on set. A lot of times your call time is 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, even though the talent doesn't have to show up till 9. Like I've already been there since the crack of dawn. You're also dealing with lots of cooks in the kitchen. So with a tunnel look, it's me and the client. And maybe there's an agent, depending on how the team works, that is there to talk about what the creative vision is. But with a commercial, it's the production company, it's the ad agency, it's the company that we're doing the ad for, State Farm, for example, that have like 5 people that you have to answer to. And so we're talking about like, well, do we like this black or this black? Like, I mean, it gets real granular.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're looking at the people that are making the creative decisions like, so I got to tell you, you got this vest on, that this looks cool and you look crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but that's how it works.
Yeah.
So you're there all day and night, sometimes multiple days. And you have to shoot and be prepared to shoot from the front, from the side, from the back, which means sometimes you have to have multiples of that because, for example, like if you're shooting in a basketball uniform and they have them sort of pretending to play, they might sweat. So now I got to have a backup jersey in case this one gets ruined. Or it's less, I will say it's less creative in that like, I'm not trying to figure out how to make this suit look cool with this t-shirt or whatever. And more like, I had to make sure I have 5 of these Argyle sweaters because that's what we're using for this particular commercial. Yeah. Although that process was extremely creative and cool because I got to come up with the entire like image of what Cliff Paul was. Mm-hmm. So like, is it going to be stripes? Is it going to be plaids? And we ended up on Argyle. So that process was really cool and really interesting. But it's definitely different than dressing somebody for a tunnel. It's definitely more, a lot of more moving parts and a lot more logistics that you have to go through. And it's also such long days.
Yeah.
You know, you've been on set.
Them commercial days, bro?
Long.
The only good thing is like the craft services.
Yes, the craft services.
I'll be there for the craft services.
Yes, the craft services is lit.
What is the, it's probably easier when because he just did one where he was just in the Golden State uniform, right?
No, you talk about the one that's on right now.
That's on right now.
Oh, the Safe Run one.
So are you like, for those, you don't really have to do much on those, right?
I mean, I have to connect with the equipment manager to make sure I get a uniform. Usually this is an off season, so sometimes they have to make one for us. Yeah. Like there's still stuff that goes into it.
Yeah.
Usually they don't tell me he needs a uniform until the day before, so we have to like there's still like, so it's like, yes, it's easy because it's uniform, but once he puts it on, and especially when you're playing with the athlete, when they wear their uniform, I usually like, do your thing because this is the outfit you know what to do with.
You know how to wear it.
Yeah. But I think getting it there is always a process.
Always the behind the scenes.
Always
the behind the scenes.
Court, so you style NBA guys, Anthony Anderson as well. What would be like one of your favorite outfits or favorite events to style for?
So for Anthony, I think the coolest thing that I've done recently was I dressed him for the Emmys. He hosted the Emmys last year. And that was such a monumental moment. It felt like the blackest Emmys we've ever had. I don't know if you guys watch the Emmys, but he's just a really interesting guy because I feel like he stays on top of making sure the culture is celebrated.
Yep.
And to do that and work with so many really great luxury brands, it's intense because you have a producer saying like, you have 18 seconds to get him changed. So it's like very intense in the backstage. You know, he has 5 looks to do it, you know, each change within a commercial break or while somebody's getting presented an award. That was really fun for me. Also being able to see all the other people there. Like I'm a huge Frasier fan. So to see Kelsey Grammer, like silly things like that. In sports, I think a couple things. Chris, All-Star Atlanta, he wore the HBCU jacket, was extremely monumental, not at all intentional. I had no idea that the All-Star game was going to be sort of thematically about HBCU culture. I made this jacket. He had been celebrating HBCUs all season. I put this jacket together sort of illegally because I had all the patches made and thought, you know, this would be cool, him to celebrate all the schools all at one time. Told him to wear the All-Star at his house, watching the All-Star game to then see that like they have the marching bands are singing Lift Every Voice and Sing. And I was like, oh my God, this is like the most magical moment.
Perfect.
And I am emotional, but I don't get emotional over clothes. But I definitely cried that moment because I was like, oh my God, like we out here. It's 100%. Us. Yeah. Like
100%.
We got marching bands at the All-Star game.
Yeah.
So that was really great. I think being a part of Sue Bird's last kind of trip around the sun in the league was really, I didn't even think I realized while it was happening how powerful that was. And just being a part of her story has been really cool. Dressing her for her jersey retirement ceremony was really cool and important for me. Working with her and Megan Rapinoe for their media company. I think dressing Brittany Griner for the Met Gala, like I think I am inspired.
We need them two on the pod.
Oh yeah, Sue and Megan.
We need to get Sue. Megan Rapinoe, we
Yes,
need her
Sue.
on here too.
And Meg.
She's elite.
They're cool. They're
so
cool as shit. I feel like I said this yesterday, but working with Sue kind of reignited my love for what I do. I think I realized with Chris, with our HBCU moment, like, that it wasn't just about the clothes. Because I actually don't give a shit about clothes. Like, I think, it's cool. I mean, I do. But in the grand scheme of things, I think realizing that I could use style as a platform to talk about other things kind of helped me see what my work in a different way. But then working with Sue kind of reminded me how important the work is and the way that she and her team champion other women and really kind of to go back what we talked about before, having those open dialogues, communicating with each other, asking the questions kind of reignited my love for what I do, and to see other women sort of doing what they love in different ways and kind of putting their foot in different areas of the business was like, oh, okay, like this is where I'm supposed to be. And I love that because I feel like, I like to work on projects where it's not just about the clothes. So being a part of Brittany Griner's story, that was important for me. And to use fashion as a platform to do that, being a part of Sue's story, the same, Chris HBCU story, I think that's where I live. And I'm excited by those moments because it's bigger than just, my Amiri jeans.
Yeah, I agree. Because even when we did the HBCU project in the bubble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that was...
The bubble was...
The bubble that was crazy.
But I feel like we made such an impact there. I mean, they made the All-Star game about HBCU. Yeah. I mean, they have HBCU days now, for the league. Yeah. I feel like we did that. And I feel like somebody needs to say we did that.
No, somebody. For people that don't know, so Chris wore, so me, Courtney, and Sag, Chris did this HBCU tour while he was in the bubble. Each game he wore a different school. So he customized his PEs, his CPs. I think that was the 12s. And then from the shoe, Courtney was style. So every game where he wore a different school.
He wore which I feel like the Howard look is probably the one that kind of was the most viral.
The varsity jacket.
But we worked with the school. Well, it would literally be me ordering from the student union, or we'd work with brands that are centered around HBCU culture, which most of them are Black-owned brands, in order to get clothes to him for the bubble.
Then one year, y'all did he wore all just Black-owned.
Yeah. That's how it started. So in Houston, was actually the first time he and I probably sat down and said, okay, the tunnel is becoming a thing. What are we going to do? Are we going to wear only suits? Are we going to wear all black? What's our thing? And so we said, listen, we've sort of always supported small business, but let's do it really intentionally. Let's only wear Black-owned brands. So literally I don't want to say I had 82 looks up front because I didn't, but I would say I had maybe the first 20 looks, all Black-owned brands. And then I went to get him ready for the season. And my dad went to Texas Southern. And so I was while he was doing his pregame ritual, which is usually a nap, I was let me go up to campus to get my dad alumni sweatshirt. And so Candace and I go up on campus, whatever. And so I was in the store, in the student union, no, Chris is going to wear this sweatshirt. We're in Houston. He's going to wear a Texas Southern sweatshirt. So literally the look that he was going to wear, we wrapped the jacket around his waist and he threw on the Texas Southern sweatshirt. And that's how it all started. Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy.
That's dope.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Super dope.
That's wild.
Bro, I've just been here learning. This has been amazing, bro.
I think it's so dope though, because I mean, how we from our first episode, our first podcast, we said how many jobs it is in the sports industry.
So many jobs.
But we said it's so hard to get into the sports industry. People don't know how to get into it, who to reach out to. X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But like hearing your story, the things that you went through, how you started, where you are now, all the things that you've done, it's like, damn.
There's a way.
There's a way.
There's
All you
a
gotta do
way.
is just reach out.
There's a way.
There's
and it's
a
work.
way, make one.
There's work, and it's work,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
It's work. It's not always great.
Yeah.
There's times that you've been down. Like I said, I'm glad you touched on
I've been
Sue.
down bad.
Yeah.
No, like I'm glad you touched on because we talked about it yesterday. I'm glad you touched on that because there's always that moment that gives you that kick in the ass. Like, all right, come on, let's go do it.
Yeah, if they can do it, I can do it too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful to hear. But listen, you've kicked down the door for us in a new realm of
I'm glad I can pop
business
cherry.
and different ways to get into these things. But it's been great. We appreciate you getting on, Courtney. We can't thank you enough. You family, of course. But I told y'all, we getting bigger and better. We getting bigger and better on Run Your Race.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate you coming on, and it's another episode. Peace.
Run Your Race.
Yes, indeed.
Y'all should have